I'd like to introduce Thane Smith from NetApp, and the topic is Modernize Your Data Center with cDOT.
All righty, thank you, Chris. Good to be with everybody today. Just going to take a few minutes and talk about some of the things that cDOT brings to the storage environment that we believe are very changing, motivating, and innovative. Some of the challenges that we're seeing in the IT environment in general are, I've highlighted a couple of them here. There are certainly more. One of them, and probably one of the most challenging ones, is the constant state of change that we're in the IT world. We're trying to deploy applications and not have any outage or interruptions to anybody. And I think we can all share in that whenever the company has to improve or become more efficient, it typically ends up that the fix or the solution for becoming more efficient is let IT do more stuff. And as we do that, we're not finding our staffs increase. We're not finding a lot more flexibility in that. We're just getting loaded on more. And the businesses, as they become more and more and more reliant on technology, become less and less tolerant on some of the processes that are required to manage traditional technology. So they don't want outages, they want it always available, they want predictable performance, they want all of these things that we have to work very much to provide. And Cluster Data ONTAP, cDOT, goes a long ways to allowing us to enable that kind of an environment. There's also an interest in the industry right now for this service-oriented approach. We need that flexibility, we need that agility behind the scenes to be able to be service-oriented. The things that NetApp brings to the table on that are the guidance in working with other companies and getting there, and the technologies that allow some of those things to be enabled. And the last one is avoid being locked into one approach. We need flexibility, we need options. We need to be able to provide solutions from an IT organization that are best for the business and not what's best for the manufacturer that built our equipment or our IT guys. We need to be able to be agile and flexible enough to be able to provide those solutions to the business units that are best for the business unit. So if we think about traditional architectures, they are very siloed and they are very individually implemented. If we have a database environment, sometimes we'll implement a completely standalone technology with that, separate from our Unix infrastructure, separate from our high availability relational database infrastructure. These become very, very hard to manage because of the differences that they have, and also by not unifying them, it gives us more challenges in dealing with performance issues, dealing with availability issues, dealing with migration issues. What if I want to take one of these to the cloud? I may have a different process for doing that for every silo that I have implemented. So we have to be very cognizant about acquiring different technology for each solution. And we need to look for technologies that allows us to support many applications without requiring a lot of different technologies to do that. And one of those is, of course, Cluster Data ONTAP. Some of the key features, my slides are running away from me. Some of the key features of Cluster Data ONTAP: non-disruptive operations. I can do storage maintenance, I can do hardware life cycle, I can do software upgrades, I can do everything I need to non-disruptively while users are active in their applications, while things are going on. Efficiency, I don't know how many of you are familiar with NetApp products in general. Reducing storage costs is one of the things that we're always working hard to achieve, to where we can do more with less, to where we can, through efficiencies of thin provisioning, reusability of data, cloning, thin and efficient snapshots, real-time compression, some of those things we'll talk about them in a minute, to get that efficiency to the point where we are making the maximum use out of the equipment that we own, and as such, less burden on our administrators because the environment is smaller to manage. And then, of course, scalability. I need to be able to scale this thing in multiple directions because I don't know where the IT world is going to be in the future. Can any of us really say what applications are going to be requested and what workloads are going to be requested of us IT administrators 2 years from now, or maybe even a year from now? Do I know for sure what protocols, what storage types, what performance I'm going to need within the next 2 years? I don't, so I need to be implementing infrastructures that allow me to be as agile as possible in getting through those unknown things that come up over time. So non-disruptive operations, let's think about the siloed environment. If I have a single storage array with 10 business apps and I have to take an outage on it, the fix may be only a 2-hour fix, but the coordination with all of the users and all the applications and everybody else usually takes orders of magnitude more time than that. So in this case, 38 hours. If I'm managing 150 systems that need to take a 2-hour outage during the year, that's 3 man-years to be able to manage that. We cannot keep operating like that because we don't have the staffs, we don't have the desire. We cannot operate in that mode where outages are killing us. Outages now are having to become a thing of the past in order to provide the service level that our customers are looking at. And that's one of the things that we gain through Cluster Data ONTAP is true non-disruptive operations. Now I can make changes. I can even do technology refreshes in a Cluster Data ONTAP system without taking an outage. In this example that we have here, we have a set of apps running against a clustered system. And one of the things you'll note here in this clustered system is each one of these controllers is actually a different model. We don't make a requirement that all components in a clustered environment be identical to each other. They can even be different versions if needed. Now, if we need to take and do life cycle management of one of these pieces of the cluster, I can simply actively migrate the load off of that, replace the physical controller, and migrate the storage back. If I have a performance need that I need to move some things around, I can non-disruptively move that data around the cluster. The customer's access point to the cluster is outside of the visibility of those specific pools. And so as we're able to balance and move and life cycle and whatever we need to do in the storage cluster, it's completely non-disruptive to the user. The user sees nothing happening. And I apologize for that animation there. The go to webinars liking to stripe it a little bit. So the next benefit was efficiency. At NetApp, we are all about efficiency, and we are efficiency across the stack. And the reason why is because we treat storage as storage, and we treat protocols as protocols, and we allow all storage efficiencies to be used on all protocols. So whether it's a Windows share or a NFS mount point or a fiber channel or FCOE or whatever it is, the same efficiencies are in play at the storage level. And some of those, if we can touch on these real quick, one is RAID DP, which is our dual parity protection of SATA. SATA, because the disks are getting so big, SATA is not the most stable environment. Through RAID DP, we're able to make it production stable and always available, and so that we can use those cheaper, lower cost per gig storage devices in a production environment. Snapshot technology, we're able to take backups of storage pools, non-impactful, no space used, immediate, to allow us to do backups behind the scenes. Customers don't have to be aware of it, and applications don't have to do the work. Our app servers don't have to do the work of a backup. it was frustrating to me when I was managing IT that a lot of times we built our environment based on our peak usage, which happened to be at backup time in the middle of the night. The frustration to me was that we are building environments sized based on system management functions instead of the function that it's really supposed to be providing, whatever that may be, database or web pages or whatever else. With snapshot technology, now I can keep the load of the backups on the storage environment and not have to have the servers or the networks or the applications take on the burden of making those backups. Thin provisioning, better use of storage, cloning. We can deduplicate blocks behind the scenes. We can do on-the-fly real-time compression of data. We have some things that we're doing with SSD. Just all of these options completely gives the option to the storage admin of which of these makes sense for your business. One of the things that we try very hard to do is we know clearly that you make the decisions about your business. You make the decisions about how you use storage and deploy storage and manage storage. It's not up to us to dictate these are the only protocols you can use or these are the only technologies you can use. In a NetApp world, it's the business that makes the decision and not the manufacturer that makes the decision. So some of the benefits of seamless scalability. Sorry, I'm getting a little dry here. Hang on a second. Are that we can grow from large to small. We can scale performance. We can add systems to our environment as our performance needs grow. As our storage size needs grow, we can scale capacity. We can add storage non-disruptively. And from an operational perspective, it becomes more efficient to operate because now I can do all of these things seamless, online, as needed, and manage the environment in a way that allows customers to never see impact to their application. Makes it easier for all of us. All right, let's talk about flash and SSD. Let me let this animate for a second. Go to webinars, not a big fan of this. So this is a representation of an all-flash clustered environment. We can scale it from 12 to 24 controllers, up to 12 to 24 from 2. This is all flash. Some people will tell you that hard drives are dead. I don't know anyone yet that believes that, and if you believe it, I'd appreciate a comment in the comments. Hard disk is not dead because there's certain data types that don't need flash and don't need the cost of flash. Maybe sometime later in our careers, flash cost will be at a point where we can say hard drive is dead. But right now, I'm a big fan of hard drive still. And with the manufacturers announcing now 10 terabyte SATA coming out in the next year, I think we're far away from hard drives being dead. That's a great storage media. So we have all flash. We can do the super high performance. We can provide for all flash environments. But as we've been saying, it's about options and it's about flexibility. It's about usage. Out the user side of this cluster, I can share any component in here as a NFS mount point, as a Windows share, as fiber channel LUNs, as FCOE device. I can share it in any way that I want, not being concerned about the data type. All of the efficiencies that we talked about can be applied to any of the storage pools in here. And if I now have a need to enhance this with physical disk, I can do that as well. And I can bring in hybrid. So I have some solid state flash and some disk, and I can mix those in storage pools. So now if it's, let's say it's a huge database where we're only using 10% of the database actively, I can do a storage pool that has both flash and hard drives in it, and the high utilization data in that database will sit in flash, and the static historical data will sit on hard drives. It's a far cheaper solution to provide a high performance environment to something that only needs part of the data to be high performance, which is very common in the world that we have a database. Usually 10 to 15% of the database is what's active, and the rest is just historical that people refers to over time. The great keys are the manufacturer is not making the choice for you. You make the choice for you. You know your business. From a NetApp world, it's about options. It's about flexibility. It's about you making the decision that's best for your business in a highly available, easy to manage environment. So to reiterate some of the things we've been talking about, non-disruptive operations, some quotes from some people, no outages, saving all this time a year. The other problem with outages that I have seen is, even if we do get permission from our users to take outages, it's in the middle of the night. And there's only a few people that like working in the middle of the night. I'm not one of them. So as I can eliminate those outages that we have to take for environments, I think it's better for everybody. And we don't burn out our admins, we don't burn out our IT people. And if we can do it non-disruptively, we don't even have to coordinate with our user. We'll just make the changes and move on. Efficiency, which we talked about, reducing storage requirement using the same equipment is hugely beneficial because it's cheaper and it's easier to manage. If I'm only managing 100 drives instead of 1,000 drives, it becomes certainly easier to manage. And if I can put 1,000 drives of data in 100 drives, it's a good thing for everybody. And seamless scalability. I need to be able to scale my environment in whatever direction my business says I need to scale it. If I need to add storage, I need to be able to do that. If I need to add capacity, I need to be able to scale that way. If I need to be able to operate this without scaling my operators every time I scale something, I need to be able to do that too. And clustered data ONTAP allows us to do all of this. The last point that I wanted to make was a little bit about cloud. One of the things that we are very excited about is the path to cloud and how we're getting to cloud. And one of the things that becomes very compelling is in a NetApp world, we can now scale a existing environment into the cloud and move in and out of cloud as applications see fit. Here's a good example. Maybe we do test dev in cloud. Maybe we do acceptance test in cloud where we have to spin up a lot of servers for some amount of time. Wouldn't it be great if I could put my data over in a cloud environment, let all of the user testing or system testing take place in the cloud, and then when I'm ready for production, move it back to my environment in a seamless and efficient way. That's one of the things that we enable with clustered data ONTAP. Or we may go the opposite. I may have a web server that we're doing a special campaign on that suddenly gets overloaded beyond my capacity to support. I can easily transport my data out to my cloud provider and spin up all of the resources I need out there to support it. So once again, it's about options. And through all that we do, NetApp is going to create options rather than forcing you into a technology and saying, yeah, this is just how it's got to be. So finally, kind of the methodology is needed, and we provide a lot of this. cStor provides a lot of this in having a consistent, proven methodology. Storage is hard, and anybody that tells you storage isn't hard hasn't done a lot of storage. It's important to implement and deploy in the right and correct and thoughtful ways so that we can operate it as seamlessly and easy as possible. Probably the good ways to do that is to involve people that have done it before and who have expertise and experience in doing that, and that's some of the things that we bring to the table. I want to give Chris a little bit of mic time here, so I'm going to try to wrap up quick. Not that quick. Non-disruptive operations, which we've talked about, continuous availability, no outage, being able to do things in clustered data ONTAP without taking outage. Key, very important, very compelling. proven efficiency. We have features and functionality that allow us to put more data on fewer disks. We have replication services that allow very efficient transporting of data and seamless scalability. We need to be able to grow our environment in multiple directions without taking outages, without impacting users, and when we decide it makes best sense to do it, not when the manufacturer decides when it makes best sense. And that's it for me, so I'll turn it to any QA. I'm looking in the box right now. I don't see any questions coming in.
We do actually have one thing. Thank you so much for your presentation, by the way. Great information. We do actually have one. What kind of performance can I expect from cDOT? Can you talk to that?
So that's a good question, and the reason why is this. It's hard for me to be able to predict the future sitting in a chair of what an application is going to need. So one of the keys and one of the things that we deliver through Clustered Data ONTAP is the optionality of saying if my application, for example, at month end requires very high demand of the storage, I now, because I can seamlessly migrate it around, I can move it to that place where it can receive that high performance, and the rest of the month when it's really doing nothing, I can leave it where it doesn't need a lot of performance. That's item one. I can seamlessly to the app move storage resources around to different performance tiers without the end user knowing that that's happening. The other thing is as we consolidate to make things easier to manage, we have to have quality of service. We have to be able to say this resource is important and I want higher attention given to this from the environment. So Clustered Data ONTAP has a lot of quality of service components in it to where I could take a storage pool, for example, a customer service database where phone reps are using it. I might want to say that is a critically important application and I want to make sure that it always gets a very high priority in my storage environment. On the other end, I may have an archive process that's running or an archive storage pool. I can conversely say this archive storage pool is not as important, so let other more important tasks take away when this is running. So the two things are portability of data. I can now put my data where it makes most sense at any point in time for performance to provide it the performance that it needs. And two is the quality of service where I can now define to my storage pools what quality of service I want on those, what the minimum latency will be, what other settings like that to ensure that those are prioritized above other workloads. And as we come into this more unified environment, we need tools like that. We have to have functionality like that so that we can ease our management burden of managing the environment while expanding the ability of it through being able to perform different options in it.
Great, thank you. We're just close.